The massive space station hung in the darkness like a sleeping giant. Its metal surface reflected the distant light of 3 suns, creating strange shadows that danced across its hull. The station was bigger than most cities on Earth, with towers and domes that stretched in all directions. No one knew who built it or why it was there. Dr. Hyun-woo Park pressed his face against the small window of the transport ship. He had been studying alien technology for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The station called Eternal Vigil had been discovered 30 years ago, and the best minds in the galaxy had tried to unlock its secrets. All of them had failed. "First time seeing it?" asked Commander Yoon-ji Kim as she floated beside him in the zero gravity. Her uniform was crisp and clean, showing her military discipline. She had short black hair and serious eyes that missed nothing. "Yes," Hyun-woo replied, his breath fogging the window. "The pictures don't do it justice. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." Behind them, 2 alien team members were checking their equipment. Veltar was a tall, thin creature from the Centaurian system. His blue skin had silver markings that glowed softly in the dim light. He moved with careful, measured steps and spoke in a voice that sounded like singing. Crix was very different, an insect-like being from the Hive Collective. Her 4 arms worked constantly, adjusting tools and taking measurements. Her large compound eyes could see things humans couldn't even imagine. "The humans are here," Crix clicked in her strange language. Universal translators made her words sound flat and emotionless. "I still do not understand why they were invited. They have been in space for less than 100 years. Veltar's silver markings pulsed slowly, which meant he was thinking. "The Coalition believes fresh perspectives might help. Sometimes the newest eyes see what the oldest ones miss." "Unlikely," Crix replied. "We have tried everything. Neural interfaces, quantum manipulation, telepathic contact, dimensional phasing, nothing works. The console remains dead." Hyun-woo understood more alien languages than most humans, but he pretended not to hear their conversation. He had dealt with this attitude before. Many alien species saw humans as primitive newcomers who had nothing valuable to offer. They were usually polite about it, but the feeling was always there. The transport ship docked with the station with a soft thud. Air hissed as the airlocks connected. Commander Kim checked her weapon out of habit, even though no life forms had ever been detected on the station. Military training was hard to ignore. "Remember the rules," she said to everyone. "Stay together, touch nothing without permission, and report anything unusual immediately. This station has been here for millions of years. We don't want to break it on our first day." The airlock opened with a sound like a sigh. Cool air flowed out, carrying a smell that was hard to describe. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was definitely not human. The lights inside were dim and blue-white, casting everything in an eerie glow. They stepped into a corridor that was too wide and too tall for humans. The walls were smooth and curved, made of some material that looked like metal but felt warm to the touch. Strange patterns covered every surface, lines and curves that seemed to move when you looked at them directly. "The symbols," Hyun-woo whispered, pulling out his scanner. "They're different from the pictures in the files." "They change," Veltar explained. "That was one of the first discoveries. The patterns shift and move, but no one knows why. We have recorded thousands of different configurations, but none of them make sense." They walked deeper into the station. Their footsteps echoed strangely as if the walls were alive and listening. Sometimes the corridor branched off in directions that hurt to think about. The station's geometry didn't follow normal rules. "How many teams have been here?" Hyun-woo asked. 47 official expeditions," Crix answered, "plus countless smaller research groups. The Andromedans spent 2 years here with their best quantum physicists. The Etherians brought their most powerful telepaths. Even the machine minds of the synthetic collective tried to interface with the systems. All failed. They reached a lift that activated as soon as they approached. It moved smoothly upward, taking them toward the center of the station. Through transparent walls, they could see vast chambers filled with strange equipment. Some rooms held what looked like gardens, but the plants were made of crystal and light. Others contained machines that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. "There," Commander Kim pointed ahead. "The central chamber." The lift stopped. and the doors opened to reveal the most amazing sight any of them had ever seen. The chamber was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. The walls curved away in a perfect circle, covered in more of the shifting symbols, and in the center, rising from the floor like a mountain of crystal, was the console. It was beautiful and alien, and completely silent. The crystal was clear as glass, but seemed to contain swirling galaxies of light that moved too slowly to see. Thousands of the strange symbols covered its surface, changing and flowing like water. Around its base, metal platforms held the remains of previous attempts to activate it, burnt-out neural interfaces, shattered quantum devices, and scanning equipment that had simply stopped working. 30 years, Veltar said quietly. 30 years of the galaxy's best minds, and it has never even flickered. Hyun-woo approached the console slowly, his scanner beeping softly. The readings made no sense. According to his instruments, the console was both completely inactive and generating enormous amounts of energy. It was there and not there at the same time. The power source is still active, he said, studying the display. Whatever this thing is supposed to do, it's ready to do it. It's just waiting. Waiting for what? Commander Kim asked. That's what we're here to find out. Crix was setting up her equipment near the base of the console. Her movements were quick and efficient. But Hyun-woo noticed something strange. Every time she got close to the crystal, her tools malfunctioned. Lights flickered, screens went blank, and mechanical parts stopped moving. Problems? He asked. Minor. Technical difficulties, she replied, but her voice carried frustration. This happens to everyone. The console interferes with our technology. But not all technology, Veltar added. Some devices work normally. Others fail completely. There seems to be no pattern. Hyun-woo pulled out his own scanner and walked closer to the console. The device worked perfectly, giving him detailed readings of the crystal's structure and energy patterns. He looked at the alien team members with their malfunctioning equipment, then back at his own working scanner. Interesting, he murmured. That night, they made camp in one of the smaller chambers near the central room. The station provided breathable air and comfortable temperature, but it felt like sleeping in a tomb. The walls glowed faintly with their own light. And sometimes they could hear sounds that might have been the station settling, or might have been something else entirely. Hyun-woo lay on his sleeping mat, staring at the ceiling. The symbols above. His head moved in patterns that almost made sense, like a language he had once known but forgotten. In his dreams, he saw stars being born and dying, vast ships traveling between galaxies, and eyes that held the wisdom of ages watching him from the darkness. When he woke up, the console was calling to him. The second day brought 2 more humans to the station. Dr. Ji-hoon Lee arrived first, carrying bags full of language analysis equipment. He was a quiet man with thick glasses who spoke softly but had eyes that saw patterns everywhere. Behind him came So-young Choi, a young engineer whose bright smile made even the alien corridors seem less scary. This place is incredible, So-young said as she looked around the central chamber. Her scanner was already working, taking measurements of everything in sight. The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever powers this station is more advanced than anything we've ever seen. Dr. Lee walked straight to the console and stared at the moving symbols. He didn't say anything for a long time, just watched the patterns flow across the crystal's surface. Finally, he pulled out a small device and began recording. What do you see? Hyun-woo asked. Not words, Lee replied slowly. These aren't meant to be read like a book. They're testing something. The patterns change based on who's looking at them and how they're thinking about them. Veltar's silver markings glowed brighter with interest. We tried cognitive analysis years ago. The symbols showed no response to our thought patterns. Maybe they weren't looking for your patterns, Lee said. He didn't mean to sound rude, but Crix's mandibles clicked with annoyance anyway. While Lee studied the symbols, So-young was crawling around the base of the console with her equipment. Her readings showed things that shouldn't be possible. The console was drawing power from empty space itself, pulling energy from the quantum foam that existed between atoms. This is impossible, she muttered. According to physics, this can't work, but it's working anyway. Perhaps your physics are incomplete, Crix suggested. Maybe, So-young agreed. Or maybe whoever built this knew things we haven't figured out. Yet? Commander Kim was more interested in practical matters. She was exploring the rest of the station, making maps and checking for potential dangers. The place was huge. Dozens of levels connected by corridors that seemed to bend reality. Some rooms were so big that their own weather systems had formed inside them. Others were so small that only one person could fit. "How old do you think this place is?" she asked when she returned to the central chamber. "The materials show no aging," Crix answered. "But quantum dating suggests millions of years, possibly tens of millions." "That's older than most civilizations in the galaxy," Hyunwoo said. "Older than all known civilizations," Veltar corrected. "Whoever built this predates every species we've encountered." That night brought more strange dreams. Hyunwoo saw vast cities floating in space, filled with beings that looked almost human but moved with impossible grace. He saw wars fought, with weapons that rewrote reality itself, and peace treaties signed on worlds that existed in multiple dimensions. Most clearly, he saw the station being built by creatures whose faces he couldn't quite remember when he woke up. Lee had dreams, too, but his were full of symbols and patterns. In his sleep, he understood every mark on the console's surface. They told stories of creation and destruction, of species that rose to greatness and others that fell to darkness. When he woke up, most of the meaning slipped away, but some remained. "It's a test," he announced over breakfast. "The whole console is designed to find something specific. It's looking for a particular type of mind." "What type?" Commander Kim asked. "I'm not sure yet, but I think we're getting closer to the answer." So Young had spent the night studying the station's power systems. What she found made her excited and worried at the same time. The station wasn't just powered by quantum energy, it was connected to the quantum field that underlied all reality. In theory, it could draw unlimited power from the universe itself. "This is scary," she told the others. "With this much energy, the station could do almost anything. Move planets, create black holes, maybe even change the laws of physics in local space." "But it doesn't do any of those things," Veltar pointed out. "It just sits here waiting." Waiting for what, though? As the days passed, strange things began happening around the human team members. Lights got brighter when they walked past. Doors opened before they reached them. The moving symbols on the walls seemed to follow them with invisible eyes. Most disturbing of all, their equipment kept working perfectly while the alien devices continued to malfunction. Crix's scanners showed random data. Veltar's neural interface produced only static, but every human device functioned normally, giving clear readings and useful information. "This is not coincidence," Crix said during one of their planning meetings. Her voice carried suspicion now instead of just annoyance. "The station responds differently to humans." "Maybe we're just using different technology," Commander Kim suggested, but she didn't sound convinced. "No," Veltar said. His markings were pulsing in complex patterns that meant deep thought. "I have studied your devices. They use the same basic principles as ours. The difference is not in the machines." "Then what's the difference?" Hyunwoo asked. "I believe the difference is in you." That statement hung in the air like a challenge. The humans looked at each other, then at their alien colleagues. The idea that humans might have some special connection to the station seemed impossible. They were the newest species in space, the least advanced members of the coalition. But the evidence was hard to ignore. Every day brought new signs that the station was reacting to human presence. Areas that had been dark for 30 years began to glow when humans approached. Sealed doors unlocked themselves, and the console's crystal core grew brighter each day, as if something inside was slowly waking up. Lee made another breakthrough while studying the symbols. He discovered that they weren't random patterns, but parts of a larger message. Like pieces of a puzzle, they only made sense when viewed together in the right way. "It's a consciousness map," he explained to the others. "The symbols show how different types of minds work. See this pattern here? That's logical, analytical thinking. And this one represents creative, intuitive thought. Which pattern matches humans?" So Young asked. Lee pointed to a section of the crystal where the symbols moved in complex spirals. "This one. It shows minds that balance logic and intuition, creatures that can think both rationally and emotionally at the same time." "Many species have that balance," Veltar protested. "Not like this," Lee said. "This pattern is very specific. It's looking for minds that evolved from predators but learned to cooperate. Minds that can be both violent and peaceful, selfish and selfless. It's looking for contradiction and harmony existing in the same consciousness. Crix's compound eyes studied the patterns. That does sound like human psychology. You are the most paradoxical species in the coalition. Is that good or bad, Commander? Kim asked. I think, Lee said quietly, it might be exactly what this console has been waiting for. As if responding to his words, the crystal pulsed with light. For just a moment, the symbols stopped moving and formed a clear message that everyone could understand. Welcome home. Then the patterns resumed their endless dance, leaving the team staring at each other in shock and wonder. The message, welcome home, changed everything. For 3 days after the console spoke, nobody could sleep properly. The humans kept having vivid dreams, filled with star maps and alien faces. The alien team members became nervous and suspicious, whispering among themselves in languages the translators couldn't handle. Captain Donghyun Seo arrived on the 4th day with Mina Jung, a young biologist who specialized in studying alien life forms. The captain was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes who had been present at first contact with 6 different species. If anyone could handle a tense situation, it was him. Show me what happened, he said simply after reviewing the reports. They took him to the central chamber where the console waited. The crystal was brighter now, pulsing with soft light that seemed to match human heartbeats. The symbols moved faster, too, creating patterns that almost looked like they were trying to communicate. Minna immediately began scanning the console with her biological sensors. What she found made her gasp with surprise. There are organic components in this crystal, she announced, living tissue integrated with the technology. But it's not like any life form I've ever seen. Living? Veltar's markings turned pale blue with shock. Our scans showed only crystalline and metallic structures. Your scans were looking for the wrong things, Minna explained. She held up her device, which showed complex biological patterns throughout the console. This isn't just a machine. It's a hybrid of organic and synthetic technology. The living parts look like neural networks. Brain tissue? Commander Kim asked. More complex than that. These organic components are designed to interface with biological consciousness. They're like a universal translator for minds instead of languages. Captain, CO studied the readings with interest. That would explain why mechanical species like the synthetics couldn't activate it, and why telepathic species failed too. It's not looking for artificial intelligence or pure mental energy. It wants biological consciousness. But many species have biological brains, Crix pointed out. Why do only humans seem to affect it? Maybe it's not just about having a biological brain, Lee suggested. Maybe it's about having the right kind of biological brain. Over the next few days, Mina's research revealed more shocking discoveries. The organic components weren't just compatible with biological life, they were specifically designed for carbon-based neural networks. Even more surprising, they seemed to be tailored for the exact type of brain chemistry that humans possessed. This is impossible, she told the team during one of their evening meetings. These organic patterns match human neural architecture almost perfectly. It's like this console was built specifically for our species. That cannot be right, Veltar protested. This station is millions of years old. Humans have only existed for a few 100,000 years. The mathematics don't lie, Minna insisted. Either this is the most incredible coincidence in galactic history, or there's a connection we don't understand. Meanwhile, strange things continued happening around the human team members. Hyunwoo found that he could navigate the station's confusing corridors without getting lost, as if he instinctively knew which way to go. So Young discovered that some of the station's dormant systems activated when she got close to them. Lee could read the shifting symbols more clearly each day, understanding messages that had been written millions of years ago. The most dramatic change happened to Captain Seo. While exploring a sealed section of the station, he found a room filled with what looked like star charts. As soon as he entered, the charts came to life, showing the positions of stars and planets across the galaxy. But these weren't current star maps. They showed the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago. "Look at this," he called to the others. When they arrived, they found him standing in front of a massive display that showed the movement of entire star systems across deep time. "What are we looking at?" Commander Kim asked. History, Co replied. This shows how the galaxy looked when the station was built. But look here. He pointed to a small section of the display. This region shows planetary systems that shouldn't exist, worlds that were moved from their original positions. Moved by whom? Hyun-woo asked. By whoever built this place. They had the power to relocate entire planets. The star charts revealed something else that made everyone uncomfortable. Among the moved planets was a small blue world in what would later become known as the solar system. Earth had been relocated from somewhere else in the galaxy and placed in its current position around the sun. This suggests, Veltar said carefully, that Earth's location is not natural. Someone put your planet where it is now. But why? So Young asked. Maybe, Lee said quietly, to keep humans safe until we were ready for something. The tension between the human and alien team members grew stronger each day. Crix began making encrypted reports to her superiors in the Hive Collective. Veltar spent hours in private communication with Centaurian officials. Even the usually cooperative scientific partnership began to break down as political concerns took over. They're afraid, Captain Seo told the human team during a private meeting. The implications of what we're discovering could change the balance of power in the galaxy. If humans have some special connection to this ancient technology, other species will want to control that connection or eliminate it, Commander Kim added grimly. We need to be careful, CO continued. But we also need to understand what this console wants from us. The answer might be important for everyone's survival. That night, Hyun-woo experienced his most vivid dream yet. He saw the station's builders clearly for the first time. Tall, graceful beings that looked remarkably similar to humans, but moved with an otherworldly elegance. They were building the station as a kind of lighthouse, a beacon meant to guide their descendants back to the stars. In the dream, one of the builders looked directly at him and spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The children must remember who they are before the darkness returns. When he woke up, Hyun-woo found himself standing in front of the console. His hand was reaching toward the crystal surface, drawn by an urge he couldn't resist. The symbols were moving faster now, creating patterns that looked almost like writing, in a language he had never learned but somehow understood. Behind him, he heard footsteps. The rest of the team was approaching, both human and alien. They all looked tense and worried. Step away from the console, Crix ordered. This is too dangerous. I don't think it's dangerous, Hyun-woo replied. I think it's been waiting for this moment. Waiting for what? Veltar asked. For someone to remember. The console pulsed brighter and suddenly alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red and automated voices in unknown languages echoed through the corridors, but Hyun-woo wasn't listening to the alarms. He was listening to something else, a voice that seemed to come from the crystal itself, calling to him across millions of years of silence. His hand moved closer to the surface. Just a few inches now separated him from whatever secrets the console held. Don't, Commander Kim said, but her voice sounded far away. I have to, Hyun-woo whispered. This is why we're here. This is why humans came to the stars. The crystal seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. The symbols slowed their dance and began forming recognizable patterns. And somewhere in the depths of the station, ancient systems that had slept for eons began to wake up. Hyun-woo's palm touched the crystal surface, and the universe exploded with sound and light. The console erupted in brilliant colors that had no names. Waves of energy pulsed through the station like a heartbeat coming back to life. Every corridor, filled with flowing lights that moved like rivers of stars. The shifting symbols on the walls suddenly became clear and readable, no longer mysterious patterns but actual words in a language that somehow made perfect sense. What have you done? Crix shouted over the tremendous noise, but her voice was lost in the symphony of awakening systems. Hyun-woo couldn't answer. His mind was filled with information pouring in faster than he could process. Images, sounds, memories that weren't his own, all flooding into his consciousness like water through a broken dam. He saw the galaxy as it was millions of years ago, filled with wonders that modern species couldn't imagine. The other humans felt it too. So Young gasped as technical knowledge appeared in her mind, understanding of technologies that were beyond anything current science could explain. Lee found himself knowing languages that had been dead for eons, able to read the history written in the station's walls. Captain Seo and Commander Kim experienced flashes of strategic information, star maps showing hidden routes between galaxies and the locations of other ancient facilities. But it was Min-Ah who received the most shocking revelation of all. As biological data flowed into her consciousness, she understood the truth about humanity's origins. "We're not from Earth," she whispered, staring at Hyunwoo with wide eyes. "We never were." The alien team members backed away as the humans seemed to glow with inner light. The console's energy was connecting them to something vast and ancient, something that had been waiting millions of years for this moment. Then the voice spoke. It didn't use words or sounds that ears could hear. Instead, it communicated directly, with consciousness itself, placing knowledge and understanding directly into their minds. The voice was ancient beyond measure, patient as stone, and filled with a sadness that came from waiting too long for loved ones to return home. "I am the Warden," it said. "Guardian of the memory, keeper of the promise, watcher in the darkness. I have waited for the children to remember who they are." Hyunwoo tried to speak, but found he could only think his questions. The connection went both ways. The Warden could read his mind as easily as he could hear its voice. "What are we?" he thought. "You are the heirs," the Warden replied. "Descendants of the predecessors, the first people to achieve true understanding of the universe. Your ancestors seeded the galaxy with life and knowledge before transcending to higher planes of existence." Images flowed through the connection. Hyunwoo saw a civilization of beings that looked almost exactly like humans, but possessed technology that seemed like magic. They could move stars, create new forms of life, and travel between dimensions as easily as walking through doorways. They had achieved peace throughout the galaxy and were preparing for something even greater. "Why did they leave?" Min-Ah asked, her mind joining the conversation. "They did not leave," the Warden explained. "They transformed. A great threat approaches. From beyond normal space and time, entities that consume entire dimensions. The predecessors became beings of pure consciousness to fight this threat on levels that physical beings cannot reach. But they left us behind," Lee thought. "They left you to grow and learn and become worthy of the inheritance. Human DNA carries genetic markers from the predecessors. Your minds can interface with their technology because you are their children, separated by millions of years but connected by blood and purpose." So Young's engineering knowledge was expanding rapidly as the Warden shared technical information. She suddenly understood how the station's impossible systems worked, how energy could be drawn from quantum foam, how matter could be transformed at the molecular level. "The technology we've been developing on Earth," she gasped out loud. "It's been following predecessor patterns." "Yes," the Warden confirmed. "Genetic programming guided your species' development along specific paths. Your computers, your space travel, your understanding of physics, all were influenced by dormant knowledge in your DNA. Captain Seo was receiving strategic information about the galaxy's hidden structures. He learned about secret facilities left by the predecessors, about other species that carried genetic markers from the ancient civilization, about threats that current galactic governments didn't even know existed." "How many other species are like us?" he asked. "Few carry the full inheritance," the Warden replied. "Humans are the primary heirs, but several other species have partial connections. The Etherians have inherited psychic abilities. The Andromedans received advanced mathematics. The Centaurians were given enhanced pattern recognition, but only humans received the complete genetic legacy." Meanwhile, Veltar and Crix were watching in amazement and growing fear. The humans were changing before their eyes, becoming something more than they had been minutes before. Their eyes held new wisdom, their movements showed increased confidence, and when they spoke, their words carried authority that hadn't been there before. "This changes everything," Veltar whispered to Crix. "If humans are truly the heirs to the galaxy's most advanced civilization, then they are no longer the junior partners in the coalition," Crix finished. "They are potentially the most powerful species in known space." The Warden was sharing more information now, showing the humans locations of other predecessor facilities throughout the galaxy. Some were hidden inside dead stars, others existed in parallel dimensions, and a few were camouflaged as natural phenomena like nebulae or asteroid fields. "Your species' emergence as a spacefaring civilization was carefully timed," the warden explained. The great threat is returning. Long-range sensors detect reality distortions at the galaxy's edge. The entities that exist between dimensions are approaching again. What are these entities? Commander Kim asked. Images filled their minds, things that couldn't be described in normal language because they existed partially outside of normal reality. They consumed not just matter and energy, but the very structure of space and time itself. Entire dimensions had been devoured by them in previous cycles. They are called the Void Feeders, the warden said. They exist in the spaces between what is real. Every few million years, they emerge from the deep dimensions to consume whatever life and consciousness they can find. The predecessors fought them once and won, but at great cost. And now they're coming back, Yunwu understood. Yes. But this time, you will not face them alone. The warden has been preparing for this moment. All across the galaxy, dormant predecessor facilities are awakening. Ancient human colonies that have slept for millions of years are receiving the activation signal. The revelation was staggering. Humanity wasn't a young species that had recently developed space travel. They were the sleeping remnants of the galaxy's most advanced civilization, placed in strategic locations throughout known space and programmed to awaken when the ancient enemy returned. We're not explorers, So Young realized. We're guardians. You are both, the warden replied. The predecessors designed you to grow and learn and develop your own culture and technology. But when the time came, you would remember your true purpose and take up the responsibility of protecting the galaxy. As the connection deepened, each human began to access different aspects of their inherited knowledge. Hyunwoo found himself understanding technologies that wouldn't be invented for centuries. Min-Ah gained insight into biological systems that could reshape entire worlds. Lee discovered mathematical principles that revealed the true structure of reality itself. But with the knowledge came responsibility. They could feel the weight of millions of years of expectation, the hopes of their transcended ancestors, and the fear of species throughout the galaxy who were depending on them to stand against an unimaginable threat. The question now, the warden said as the initial flood of information began to slow, is whether humanity is ready to accept its destiny and unite the younger species for the war that is coming. The station's alarms had stopped. In the sudden quiet, they could hear the distant hum of systems that had been dormant for millions of years coming back to life. Throughout the galaxy, similar sounds were echoing as ancient facilities responded to the awakening signal. The age of human innocence was over. The age of remembering had begun. The days following the awakening changed everything. Hyunwoo could no longer sleep without dreaming of star charts and ancient battles. The warden's voice had become a constant presence in his mind, sharing knowledge that humans had forgotten. For millions of years, he was no longer just a scientist studying alien technology. He had become the first interface between humanity and their cosmic inheritance. "Show me the threat," he said to the warden during one of their mental conversations. The station's walls became transparent, revealing space beyond. But this wasn't normal space. The stars looked wrong, twisted into shapes that hurt to look at. Reality itself seemed to be bending and breaking in the distance. "They come from the spaces between dimensions," the warden explained. "The Void Feeders exist where nothing should be able to exist. They consume not just matter and energy, but the very concepts that hold reality together." Captain Seo was working with So Young to understand the new technologies flowing into human consciousness. Engineering knowledge that would take normal civilizations thousands of years to develop was being downloaded directly into their minds. Ships that could travel faster than light without using hyperspace. Weapons that could restructure matter at the quantum level. Defensive systems that created bubbles of altered physics around entire star systems. "This is overwhelming," So Young admitted as she studied blueprints that appeared in her mind. "We're receiving plans for technologies we don't even have words for yet." "The predecessors knew this would happen," Captain Seo replied. "They designed the knowledge transfer to happen gradually. We'll understand more as we need to." Meanwhile, Lee was working to decode messages coming from across the galaxy. The awakening signal had reached other hidden facilities, and dormant systems were responding. Ancient human colonies that had slept beneath the surface of dead worlds were stirring to life. Ships buried in asteroid fields for millions of years were powering up their engines. "There are hundreds of them," he reported to the team. "Maybe thousands. Predecessor facilities scattered throughout known space, all coming online at the same time." Humans have been here all along, Minna realized. Every species in the galaxy has been living alongside sleeping human settlements without knowing it. The alien members of the expedition were struggling to understand their new reality. Veltar spent hours in communication with Centaurian leadership, trying to explain that humanity was no longer the junior species they had assumed. Crix was filing reports with the Hive Collective that sounded so incredible her superiors thought she was malfunctioning. "This changes the entire balance of galactic politics," Veltar said during one of their group meetings. "If humans are truly the inheritors of predecessor technology, they could become the dominant force in known space." "We don't want to dominate anyone," Commander Kim replied. "We want to work together to face this threat." "Many species will not see it that way," Crix warned. "Fear makes people do dangerous things. Some governments may decide that humans are too powerful to be allowed to awaken fully." Captain Seo nodded grimly. "We've been preparing for that possibility. Earth is already receiving the awakening signal. Our governments are learning the truth about our origins and our purpose." Through his connection with the Warden, Hyunwoo could sense the awakening happening across human space. On Earth, ancient facilities buried beneath major cities were coming online. Scientists were discovering that many of humanity's greatest technological leaps had been guided by genetic memories they didn't understand. Military leaders were finding that their strategic thinking contained patterns inherited from predecessor war doctrine. But the most dramatic changes were happening to individual humans who carried strong genetic markers. Like the team on the station, they were beginning to access inherited knowledge and abilities. Engineers suddenly understood technologies that hadn't been invented yet. Doctors found themselves knowing treatments for diseases that had no known cure. Soldiers developed tactical awareness that seemed almost supernatural. "How many humans will be affected?" Minna asked the Warden. "All carry some level of genetic inheritance," the Warden replied. "But approximately 1 in 10,000 carry the full markers. They will become the bridge between current humanity and your predecessor legacy." The number was staggering. With billions of humans spread across dozens of worlds, that meant millions of people would soon be accessing ancient knowledge and abilities. Humanity was evolving before everyone's eyes, becoming something more than they had been just days before. "The enemy approaches faster than expected," the Warden announced during their morning briefing. "Reality distortions have been detected in 3 star systems at the galaxy's edge. The void feeders are testing our defenses." Images flowed through the mental connection, entire planets simply ceasing to exist as the entities passed through them. Not destroyed or consumed in any normal sense, but erased from reality so completely that space-time sealed itself as if they had never been there at all. "How long do we have?" Captain Seo asked. "Months, not years. The awakening must be completed quickly if there is to be any hope of mounting an effective defense." So Young was already working on the most urgent priority, getting predecessor technology to human fleets throughout the galaxy. The awakening signal carried more than just knowledge. It contained quantum-transmitted blueprints that human engineers could use to upgrade their ships and weapons. "The physics are incredible," she explained to the others. "These designs don't just improve our technology, they rewrite the rules of how technology works. Ships that can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, weapons that fire backwards through time, defense systems that create zones where the laws of physics favor us instead of the enemy." Lee was coordinating with awakened humans across the galaxy, helping them organize and understand their new abilities. The response was overwhelming. Millions of people reporting strange dreams, sudden knowledge, and abilities they couldn't explain. "Governments are panicking," he reported. "Some are trying to suppress the awakening, afraid of losing control. Others are embracing it and asking for guidance. The coalition species are equally divided," Veltar added. "The Etherians and Andromedans seem willing to accept humanity's new role, but several species are talking about military action to prevent human dominance." "They don't understand," Hyunwoo said, his voice carrying new authority from his connection with the Warden. "This isn't about human dominance. This is about survival. The void feeders don't care about politics or species rivalry. They consume everything equally. Through the station's sensors, they could monitor the approaching threat. 3 more star systems had gone silent, simply vanishing from all detection as if they had never existed. The enemy was moving faster now, testing defenses and probing for weaknesses. "We need to address the coalition directly," Captain Seo decided. Every species needs to understand what's coming and why humanity's awakening is necessary for everyone's survival. The meeting was arranged for the following day. Representatives from every major species would gather virtually to hear humanity's revelation. It would either unite the galaxy against the coming threat or trigger the greatest war in known history. As Hyunwoo prepared for what might be the most important speech in galactic history, the warden shared one final piece of information. The predecessors faced this same choice millions of years ago, it said. They could have fled to higher dimensions immediately when the threat first appeared. Instead, they chose to fight and protect the younger species, even though it meant sacrificing their physical existence. And now it's our turn, Hyunwoo understood. Yes. The question is whether humanity has inherited not just the knowledge and abilities of the predecessors, but also their courage and willingness to sacrifice for others. Looking around at his team, humans and aliens working together despite their fears and differences, Hyunwoo thought he knew the answer. The real test would come when the galaxy had to choose between fear and hope, between division and unity, between running from the darkness and standing together to face it. The awakening was complete. Now the real work would begin.